this morning, feeling fine. There's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new boy.
So you probably saw this video on my wife's Instagram page and you're wondering how we did this, or you're looking to do something similar for your kids. Today I'm going to walk you through step by step how we did this using an Ikea dresser hack. So this is the room we're working with. It's 10 feet by 11.5 feet. But once you take away this closet and one of the door swings, it's really only 8 feet by 11.5. We knew we wanted to have a desk, a double bed, and a dresser, but the best way to do that in such a small space would be to have the bed on top of the dresser.
Here's a list of all the materials you'll need to complete this project. We decided to go with a Nordli dresser from Ikea since it was easy to customize. Our dresser was a combination of black and white dressers since we couldn't find the same colors in stock. We didn't mind though because we planned on painting them anyways. The area of the room where we wanted to put the bed measured 81 inches long by 52.5 inches wide. So for the first step I wanted to mount an 81-inch supporting side rail using a 2x4 along the back wall. Using a level, I drew a horizontal line 38 3/4 inches from the floor, and I used a stud finder to make sure that I was mounting the wood to the studs behind the drywall. Then I also mounted 34-inch long wall supports on the other walls to help support the plywood for the head and foot of the bed. I mounted these at 38 3/4 inches high to make sure everything lines up with the top of the dresser. I added one supporting beam across the middle of the bed using an L bracket attached to the side rail support and a 2x4 post along the back side of the dresser. At first we only made this one support going across the middle of the bed. I had one support here, and now I'm adding two additional supports. I'm going to have more metal brackets here to make sure that that's solid, everything's attached together, no one's going to fall through here. On the left side of the bed we wanted to make a bookshelf that could also serve as steps to climb onto the bed. I built the bookshelf using 6 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. The two large side pieces measured 38 3/4 inches tall by 18.5 inches deep to match the dimensions of the dresser. Each shelf piece measured 11.5 inches wide by 18.5 inches deep. I cut all the plywood using my table saw and then assembled them using 6 pocket holes per shelf and 1 1/4 inch screws. In the end, however, my son preferred just using a step stool to climb up onto the bed, but it's still nice to have the extra storage. Next I used 1/2 inch plywood to make a custom door to access the area underneath the bed. Using a table saw, I cut the door to 38 5/8 inches high by 19 3/4 inches wide. To cut out the handle shape, I placed one of the Ikea drawers on top of the plywood and traced the outline of it. Then I used a jigsaw and sanding block to cut it out and smooth out the edges. Since the door was thinner than a standard cabinet door, I used cabinet repair plates under the brackets for a better fit. For a doorstop, I added a scrap piece of wood to the side of the dresser to keep the front of the door aligned with the furniture. We used 3/4 inch plywood on top to support the bed. Given our space, we needed the width to be 55 inches wide to fit a double bed, but the plywood was only 48 inches wide. So we cut the length of the plywood to 81 inches long and then used a 7-inch wide pine board to make it a total of 55 inches wide. After aligning the plywood and board, I screwed the bookshelf and dresser to the wall and screwed the plywood and 7-inch board on top using 2-inch decking screws. Once we got the plywood on top of the framing, my wife was able to add some wallpaper. The wallpaper she used was called Bellwood from Rebel Walls, and it was pretty easy to install. After the wallpaper, I built a storage shelf for above the bed using some 2x4s and plywood. I made it so the height of the first shelf was 20 3/4 inches high and the other 2 shelves were 8.5 inches high. Since the bed was going to use up about 75 inches of the 81-inch wall, we kept the shelf depth to 5.5 inches. Then I used some wall paneling that I got from Home Depot for the front of the shelf, and I attached it using a nail gun and 1.5 inch finish nails. To help hold the mattress in place, I used a 3-inch pine board and attached it to the top of the frame using 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws. Then I used a 1/4 inch thick plywood and 1/2 inch nails to attach the front of the bed and side of the shelves to help match the finish of the Ikea furniture. My wife likes to throw paintbrushes at things to paint them.
Oh, that's good.
But let me show you the real way we painted this IKEA furniture.
So to paint IKEA furniture, it's just like painting a normal wall, except I use a sanding sponge in between each coat, and I use the shellac-based primer, which helps it stick to the surface a lot better, and I let it dry for 24 hours before painting. For the paint, I use a Behr Marquee. It's an eggshell paint called Urban Nature.
To make the safety rails, I used 1.5 inch wood cut into 3 pieces. The 2 long pieces were 53 inches long, and the short piece was 15 inches long. This helped leave a gap of only 4.5 inches in between the bed frame and rails. After assembling the pieces of wood with pocket hole screws, I stained them using water-based whitewash and an early American stain. Then I topped that off with 2 coats of polyurethane.
So we received a lot of comments about mold, and a lot of people are scared about mold under the mattress. But this is what we put under our kids' mattresses. We use this in our other kids' room under their bunk bed mattresses. It's a 12 by 12 inch decking tile, and it allows the air to flow and circulate freely underneath and prevents any moisture.